Have you ever found yourself on your knees, pouring your heart out in prayer, desperately seeking the peace and transformation that Jesus promised, only to feel like heaven remains frustratingly out of reach? What if I told you that for 2,000 years, humanity has been searching for the kingdom of heaven in all the wrong places, while Jesus was pointing to something so close, so immediate, that most people walk right past it every single day? Think about this for a moment. Jesus didn't say, "The kingdom of heaven will come to you someday if you're good enough." He didn't say it's waiting for you after death in some distant celestial realm. He made a declaration so radical, so paradigm-shattering, that even today most people completely miss its profound implications. He said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," not will be within you, not might be within you if you pray harder or believe stronger, is within you, right now, in this very moment. Has this ever happened to you? You read these words in Scripture, and something deep in your soul recognizes their truth, yet your everyday experience seems to contradict this promise entirely. You still struggle with fear, with lack, with illness, with the weight of life's challenges. You wonder, if the kingdom is truly within me, why don't I experience it? Why does peace feel so elusive? Why do miracles seem reserved for someone else, somewhere else, some other time? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover might completely transform everything you thought you knew about spirituality, about prayer, about your relationship with the divine. The truth is, we've been conditioned from childhood to seek God outside ourselves. We've been taught to look up to the heavens, to search in holy buildings, to find God in ancient texts and sacred rituals. We speak to God as if addressing someone far away, hoping our words somehow bridge an immense distance between us and the divine. This mindset of separation has created a spiritual journey that often feels like an endless pursuit of something perpetually just beyond our fingertips. We strive, we perform, we perfect our prayers, and still, that deep sense of heaven on earth eludes us. But what if this entire approach has been built on a fundamental misunderstanding? What if Jesus wasn't giving us another religious concept to add to our belief system, but revealing the most revolutionary truth ever spoken? The kingdom within isn't a beautiful metaphor or inspirational poetry. It's the literal reality of where divine presence actually dwells. And understanding what Jesus truly meant by these words changes absolutely everything about how we experience God, how we pray, how we face our challenges, and why the miraculous life He demonstrated is not just possible for you, but inevitable once you grasp this single profound truth. And it all begins with recognizing where you've been taught to look and where Jesus was actually pointing. The hidden truth that unlocks everything lies in understanding two of the simplest words ever spoken. When Jesus repeatedly declared, "I am," He wasn't just introducing Himself or making casual conversation. These two words contain the entire essence of spiritual power, and once you grasp their true meaning, your entire relationship with the divine undergoes a complete transformation. Think about the profound statements Jesus made throughout His ministry. "I am the light of the world. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life." For centuries, we've interpreted these declarations as Jesus claiming something unique to Himself alone, something that separated Him from the rest of humanity. We've placed Him on a pedestal so high that His consciousness seems unreachable, His awareness impossibly distant from our own experience. But what if we've completely misunderstood his message? What if every time Jesus said, "I am," he wasn't claiming exclusive divinity, but demonstrating a consciousness available to every single person? Behind the scenes of these powerful declarations was a recognition so revolutionary that it threatened every religious system of his time. Jesus was revealing that the I at your core, the awareness reading these words right now, is not separate from God, but is the very presence of God individualized. This isn't philosophy or theological wordplay. This is the kingdom within that Jesus kept pointing to. The I am consciousness is the divine reality that exists before all your thoughts, before your circumstances, before your life story, before every condition and limitation you've ever experienced. It's the eternal awareness that has been present your entire life, witnessing every moment, unchanged by anything that has ever happened to you. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how this understanding creates a complete paradigm shift in your entire spiritual journey. Most of us have been approaching our relationship with God from a position of separation. We see ourselves as limited human beings down here, trying desperately to reach a God up there. We strive to become more spiritual, more worthy, more evolved, hoping that one day we'll finally bridge the gap between our human limitation and divine perfection. But recognizing the I am within shatters this entire framework. Suddenly, you're not a separate person trying to find God. You're God expressing as this unique individual experience. The kingdom isn't something you enter after accumulating enough spiritual merit or after your body dies. It's the eternal reality of what you are right now, beneath all the layers of conditioning, beneath every belief about yourself, beneath every story you've been told about who you are. This revelation transforms everything about your spiritual journey. Instead of seeking something absent, you're recognizing something present. Instead of striving to become something you're not, you're remembering what you've always been. Instead of trying to close the gap between you and God, you're awakening to the truth that there never was a gap to begin with. The transformation isn't about gaining something new. It's about unveiling what has always been true, hidden in plain sight within your own consciousness. The impact of this shift cannot be overstated. Your prayers change, your decisions change, your entire mindset about life and its challenges undergoes a fundamental revolution. And this is precisely why Jesus could promise that you would do even greater works than he did. Because once you recognize the same I am consciousness within yourself that he lived from, if this revelation is beginning to shift something in how you see yourself and your relationship with the divine, write in the comments, "I recognize the I am within me." The revelation becomes even more powerful when you understand why most people walk through their entire lives, never experiencing the kingdom that Jesus promised is within them. The answer is both simple and profound. We've been looking in completely the wrong direction, attaching our identity to things that were never meant to define us. Listen to how casually we speak about ourselves throughout the day. I am sick. I am broke. I am anxious. I am not good enough. I am stuck. We throw these statements around without realizing the immense impact they're having on our experience. Every single time you say I am, followed by a limitation or condition, you're doing something extraordinary. You're claiming that the eternal, infinite presence within you is somehow bound by temporary circumstances. If this resonates with you, subscribe to continue exploring these deeper truths that transform how we understand Jesus' teachings. Think about the hidden mechanics behind this pattern. When you identify with a condition, you've placed all your attention on the waves of experience while completely forgetting you are the ocean itself. The waves come and go, constantly changing, rising and falling. But the ocean remains, vast and unaffected, beneath every movement on its surface. This forgotten awareness, This temporary amnesia about your true nature is the only thing standing between you and the experience of heaven on earth that Jesus described. The transformation journey begins the moment you recognize this pattern in yourself. Your problems aren't the actual obstacle. Your identification with those problems is what keeps the kingdom hidden from your experience. The condition isn't what limits you. Your decision to claim that condition as your identity is what creates the sense of limitation. Now, I want to explore what happens when you live from the opposite awareness, because this is where the real power of Jesus' ministry becomes clear. What made his impact so extraordinary wasn't that he possessed supernatural abilities that the rest of us lack. Behind the scenes of every miracle was something far more accessible than special powers. It was his unwavering recognition of the kingdom within himself and within every person he encountered. Jesus never once said, "I am sick," or "I am limited," or "I am separate from my source." His consciousness remained absolutely steady in its recognition of divine presence as his only true identity. When he approached someone who was ill, he didn't see a sick person. He saw past the temporary condition to the kingdom of perfect wholeness within them. His awareness didn't agree with the appearance of disease. It recognized the eternal truth beneath the appearance. When he multiplied loaves and fishes, he wasn't performing magic tricks or bending the laws of physics. He was operating from a consciousness that knew the kingdom within as infinite supply. There was no sense of lack in his awareness, no belief in limitation, no agreement with the appearance of scarcity. His mindset remained anchored in the reality of abundance that exists within the kingdom, and that inner reality manifested as outer provision. Even when he walked on water, defying what we consider natural laws, he was simply demonstrating what becomes possible when consciousness knows itself as one with divine presence, rather than identified with material limitation. Every miracle was the kingdom within, made visible through unwavering recognition. The power wasn't in Jesus as a special person. The power was in the consciousness he lived from, a consciousness that never forgot what it truly was. This is the revelation that changes everything about how we understand our own potential, because if Jesus' power came from his consciousness rather than from being a unique exception to humanity, if you're beginning to recognize the pattern of how you've been identifying with conditions rather than with the kingdom within, type in the comments, "I see where I've been looking." This brings us to one of the most profound revelations about human suffering and why we experience so much pain despite Jesus' promise of the kingdom within. Every ounce of suffering you've ever experienced, every moment of fear, every sense of lack, every feeling of separation, all of it stems from a single source. It's not punishment from God. It's not karma. It's not because life is inherently painful. All suffering exists because we've temporarily forgotten the kingdom within. When you identify with your body, vulnerability becomes your experience. You feel fragile, threatened by circumstances, worried about illness and aging. When you identify with your circumstances, limitation defines your reality. You feel trapped by situations, constrained by conditions that seem beyond your control. When you identify with your thoughts and emotions, you experience constant turbulence, tossed around by every passing feeling and mental pattern. But here's what's happening behind the scenes of this experience. None of these things you're identifying with are actually the kingdom that Jesus was pointing to. Your body is not the kingdom. Your circumstances are not the kingdom. Your thoughts and feelings are not the kingdom. These are all temporary waves on the surface, constantly changing, rising and falling. The kingdom is the unchanging awareness behind all these changing experiences, the eternal presence that remains whole and complete, regardless of what appears on the surface. Think about it this way. Right now, as you're listening to these words, there's an awareness present. That awareness has been with you your entire life. It was there when you were 5 years old, and it's here now. It witnessed every experience you've ever had without being damaged by any of them. It's the constant observer, the unchanging presence, the eternal I am that has never been sick, never been broke, never been afraid, because it exists prior to all conditions. Suffering exists only in the space where this recognition is absent. The moment you remember what you truly are, suffering loses its grip. Not because your circumstances have changed, but because you've stopped identifying with what was never your true nature to begin with. Now, I want to share what might be the most liberating aspect of this entire teaching, because it completely transforms the typical spiritual journey that most people find themselves on. We've been taught that accessing the kingdom requires years of dedicated practice, that we need to develop ourselves spiritually, earn divine favor through good behavior, or achieve some elevated state of consciousness through intense effort. But Jesus' revelation shatters this entire approach. The kingdom within isn't something you need to create. It's not something you need to develop or cultivate like a skill. It doesn't need to be earned through spiritual performance or perfect living. The truth that changes everything is this simple statement: it already is. This creates a radical shift in your entire mindset about spirituality. Instead of frantically doing more practices, attending more workshops, reading more books, trying harder to be spiritual enough, you simply recognize what has always been true. The transformation isn't about becoming something different. It's about stopping the identification with what you are not. The kingdom isn't absent from your experience, waiting to arrive someday when you've finally done enough spiritual work. It's present right now, expressing as the very consciousness that's taking in these words. Your only real work, your only genuine spiritual practice, is learning to stop claiming temporary conditions as your identity, allowing the kingdom that has always been present to be recognized and lived from. This shift from doing to being changes every decision you make about your spiritual journey, because suddenly you're not trying to reach somewhere you're not. If this understanding is beginning to shift how you see your own spiritual path, write in the comments, "I'm recognizing what already is." Let's bring this understanding into the practical realities of everyday life, because this is where the kingdom within becomes more than beautiful philosophy. It becomes the catalyst for genuine transformation in the areas where most of us struggle most intensely. Consider what happens when you face a health challenge. The natural conditioned response is immediate. You feel symptoms, you receive a diagnosis, and without even thinking about it, you declare, "I am sick." Those 3 words seem innocent enough, just a description of your current experience. But something profound happens the moment you claim that identity. You've taken the infinite presence within you, the kingdom that Jesus described as your true nature, and bound it to a temporary physical condition. This doesn't mean denying what your body is experiencing or refusing to seek appropriate medical care. That's not what Jesus was teaching. The hidden truth is more subtle and more powerful. Beneath all physical appearances, beneath every symptom and diagnosis, lies an unchanging reality of perfect wholeness. The kingdom within has never been sick, can never be sick, because it exists beyond the physical realm entirely. When you shift your mindset to rest in this knowing, something remarkable begins to unfold. Healing happens naturally, not because you've performed some spiritual technique correctly or manipulated universal energy. The transformation occurs because you've aligned your consciousness with the kingdom that knows no disease, no limitation, no imperfection. You've stopped claiming the condition as your identity and remembered what you truly are. The impact of this recognition extends far beyond physical health. Think about how most people approach their financial reality. There's a constant undercurrent of worry, a persistent anxiety about having enough, making ends meet, surviving in a world that seems designed around scarcity. Behind the scenes of this struggle is a consciousness of lack, a mindset that sees limitation everywhere and operates from the belief that supply comes from external sources that might run dry. But Jesus demonstrated something radically different. He told us explicitly not to worry about what we'll eat or what we'll wear, not because these things don't matter, but because the kingdom within contains infinite provision. When he fed thousands with a few loaves and fishes, he wasn't performing a magic trick to impress people. He was operating from a consciousness that recognized the kingdom as his source, and from that recognition, material supply manifested naturally. This isn't positive thinking where you pretend everything is fine while ignoring practical needs. It's a fundamental recognition that changes your entire relationship with material reality. The same presence that sustains galaxies, that maintains the orbit of planets, that grows forests and fills oceans, is expressing as your individual life right now. That presence contains within itself everything needed for your journey. Not someday, not when you've earned it, right now. The shift happens when you stop looking to external circumstances as your source and recognize the kingdom within as the true supply. Your decisions about money change. Your relationship with abundance transforms. The anxiety that once dominated your financial thinking begins to dissolve. Not because your bank account suddenly fills up, but because you've remembered where your true security lies. Now, I want to explore how this same recognition transforms another critical area of human experience, because when you begin to live from the kingdom within, every relationship in your life undergoes a profound shift. If you're beginning to see how the kingdom within changes your approach to health and material concerns, put in the comments, "The kingdom is my source." The beauty of this teaching is that it isn't reserved for mountaintop meditation sessions or special spiritual moments. Living from the kingdom within happens in the ordinary rhythm of everyday life, through simple recognition in the moments most of us overlook completely. Think about how your typical day begins. You open your eyes, and within seconds, your mind floods with everything that's wrong, everything that needs fixing, every problem waiting for you. This habitual pattern sets the tone for your entire experience. But what if, in that first moment of waking consciousness, you paused and recognized something different? Not as an affirmation you're trying to convince yourself of, but as acknowledgement of what's actually true. The kingdom of God is expressing as this new day. That simple recognition shifts your entire foundation. You're not a struggling person facing another difficult day. You're the kingdom itself, taking form as this unique expression of life. The impact of this shift might seem subtle at first, but it changes the energy you carry into every interaction, every decision, every challenge that unfolds. If this message touched something deep within you, show it with a like. It helps others on the same journey find their way here. When you face a choice, instead of anxiously trying to figure out the right answer from your limited human perspective, you recognize the kingdom within contains infinite intelligence guiding this choice. You're not alone, desperately trying to make the perfect decision. You're drawing from a wellspring of wisdom that has access to information your conscious mind could never process. The transformation becomes even more powerful in how you relate to other people. Most of our relationship struggles come from seeing others as separate beings who might hurt us, disappoint us, or withhold what we need from them. But when you recognize the kingdom in me meets the kingdom in them, everything changes. You're not interacting with their personality or their problems. You're recognizing the divine presence within them, even when they've forgotten it themselves. This isn't pretending or trying to make something true through positive thinking. It's recognition of what is already true beneath all appearances, patiently waiting to be acknowledged. Behind the scenes of every moment, the kingdom is present, expressing, creating, sustaining. Your awareness simply learns to see what has always been there. Now we arrive at one of the most extraordinary promises Jesus ever made, and finally we can understand why he spoke it with such absolute confidence. He declared that we would do even greater works than his own miracles. Think about that statement for a moment. The man who healed the incurable, multiplied food from nothing, walked on water and rose from death, said you would do even greater things. For centuries, this promise has seemed impossible, perhaps even arrogant to claim. But now the hidden truth becomes clear. Jesus wasn't suggesting we'd develop superior supernatural abilities or that future generations would be more spiritually advanced. The revelation is simpler and more profound. Once you recognize the kingdom within yourself, the same creative power that flowed through Jesus flows through you. The miracles he performed weren't the result of special techniques he mastered or divine favoritism he somehow earned. They were the natural expression of a consciousness that knew itself as one with the infinite kingdom. Greater works become possible not through what you do, but through what you recognize yourself to be. The power isn't in the actions. The power is in the consciousness from which those actions emerge. This understanding completely reframes what's actually possible in your life, because if the same kingdom that expressed through Jesus exists within you right now, if you're beginning to sense the profound implications of Jesus' promise becoming real in your own experience, type in the comments, "Greater works are possible through me." Let me be completely honest with you about something crucial on this journey, because pretending it's always easy would be doing you a disservice. Living from the kingdom within doesn't mean every challenge instantly dissolves the moment you recognize this truth. You'll face moments where, despite your deepest recognition, your circumstances seem stubbornly unchanged. The bills still land in your mailbox. The health challenge persists. The difficult relationship remains complicated. The job situation stays uncertain. In these moments, doubt creeps in with a seductive whisper. See, this isn't working. The kingdom teaching is just beautiful. Philosophy, not practical reality. You need to stop this spiritual nonsense and deal with the real world. This is where most people abandon the path, convinced that because they don't see immediate external evidence, nothing is actually happening. But here's the hidden truth about how transformation actually works. The kingdom operates in consciousness first, not in conditions. Think about a seed planted in soil. For weeks, you see nothing above ground. No visible evidence that anything is happening. But beneath the surface, an entire root system is developing, drawing nutrients, establishing the foundation that will eventually support visible growth. The same process happens with consciousness. Sometimes the inner shift and outer manifestation happen simultaneously, and you witness what appears to be instant miracle. More often, the inner work requires consistent practice before physical evidence appears. Your task during this invisible stage isn't to make things happen through force of will or to anxiously check every day for signs of change. Your work is to remain faithful to the kingdom reality regardless of appearances, trusting that consciousness always eventually outpictures as experience. The challenge is that we've been trained to trust only what we can see with physical eyes, to believe only what manifests in material form. But Jesus demonstrated repeatedly that consciousness precedes manifestation, that the inner reality creates the outer experience, not the other way around. Now, I want to explore how this understanding revolutionizes one of the most important areas of human experience. Because when you begin recognizing the kingdom within yourself, Every relationship in your life undergoes profound transformation. Think about most relationship problems you've witnessed or experienced. Behind the scenes, beneath all the surface conflicts and disappointments, lies a single root cause. We seek completion in another person. We look for someone to fill our emptiness, to validate our worth, to make us feel whole and lovable. We enter relationships from a place of lack, unconsciously expecting another person to provide what we believe we're missing. This creates an impossible dynamic where two incomplete people are trying to extract completeness from each other, leading to disappointment, resentment, and endless struggle. But when you recognize the kingdom within as your completeness, everything shifts at the foundation. You no longer seek love, because you've discovered you are love itself, expressing in unique form. You don't need validation from others because you know the inherent worth of the kingdom that you are. Relationships stop being about getting what you lack and become about sharing the wholeness you've recognized within yourself. This doesn't mean you stop desiring connection or partnership. It means the entire energy of how you relate transforms. You meet others from kingdom to kingdom, seeing past their temporary behaviors and personality patterns to the divine presence within them. Even when someone acts from their wounds, from their forgetting, from their pain, you recognize that beneath it all lies the same infinite presence that exists within you. The impact of this shift on your relationships cannot be overstated, because suddenly you're no longer in conflict with people who are simply reflecting back to you the areas where you haven't yet fully recognized your own wholeness. If you've noticed, your relationship's beginning to shift as you've deepened into this recognition. Write in the comments, "I see the kingdom in others." The ultimate transformation happens when this recognition stops being something you practice during meditation or remember during challenges and becomes your constant living reality. This is the integration that Jesus demonstrated so completely. You're no longer a person searching for God's kingdom somewhere out there. You're the kingdom itself, appearing as this unique individual expression, moving through the world while never forgetting what you truly are. This doesn't turn you into some perfectly behaved saint who never makes mistakes or feels difficult emotions. That's not what Jesus was demonstrating either. You still make decisions, experience the full range of human feelings, navigate complex challenges. You still have preferences, make choices, interact with the messy reality of being human. But underneath all of it, beneath every experience, lies an unshakable knowing of what you are. From this awareness, something remarkable happens naturally. You begin creating transformation wherever you go, not through effort or technique, but simply by being yourself. The kingdom made visible. Your presence carries a different quality. Your words land differently. People sense something in you that they can't quite name but are drawn to nonetheless. Behind the scenes, consciousness is doing its work, not because you're trying to fix or heal or save anyone, but because the kingdom recognizing itself has an inherent healing impact. Think about the profound shift this creates in how you move through daily life. You're not performing spirituality or trying to maintain some elevated state. You're simply being what you've always been, now with full awareness. The decisions you make come from a different place. The challenges you face are met with a different energy. The relationships you engage in reflect a different understanding. Now, I want you to grasp the true nature of what Jesus was offering when he spoke about the kingdom within, because this changes everything about how we understand his entire ministry and message. His words weren't meant to create another religious philosophy for scholars to debate in theological circles. They weren't abstract concepts to believe in or doctrines to defend. Jesus was extending a direct invitation to discover what you already are beneath every layer of conditioning, beneath every false belief about yourself, Beneath every story you've been told about who you're supposed to be, every single moment of your life offers a fresh opportunity to remember the kingdom. Every challenge that arises becomes a doorway to deeper recognition rather than evidence of your separation from God. Every interaction with another person becomes sacred when you see it as the kingdom recognizing itself through different expressions. The journey you're on isn't about becoming something you're not. It's about unveiling what has always been true. This is the hidden truth that transforms everything. The kingdom of heaven isn't a future destination you're traveling toward. It's not a reward waiting for you beyond death if you've lived correctly. It's not something that will arrive someday when conditions are finally right. The kingdom is here now, within you, as you, in this very moment, waiting only to be recognized and lived from fully. The impact of truly grasping this cannot be measured, because it shifts your entire foundation from seeking to being, from becoming to recognizing, from separation to wholeness. And when you live from this understanding, you fulfill Jesus' promise in ways that extend far beyond what you could imagine from your current perspective. If this entire exploration has awakened something within you, a recognition of what you've always known but perhaps forgotten, type in the comments, "The kingdom has always been within me." If you've stayed with me through this entire exploration, I want you to know that's not by accident. Something within you recognized the truth in these words, and that recognition is the kingdom awakening to itself. You wouldn't have made it this far if this message wasn't meant to find you at exactly this moment in your journey. I create these videos because I believe this understanding has the power to transform lives in ways that most spiritual teachings never touch. Not through complex practices or rigid doctrines, but through simple recognition of what's always been true. If this resonates with you, if you want to continue exploring these deeper dimensions of Jesus' teachings that often get overlooked, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. Each video is designed to peel back another layer, to reveal another facet of the profound wisdom that's been hiding in plain sight. And if this message landed in your heart the way I hoped it would, leave a comment saying, "This message was meant for me, so I know you were here. So I know this conversation reached you." That connection matters more than you might think. If you found value in our time together today, a simple like on the video helps this message reach others who are searching for the same understanding you've discovered here. It's a small gesture that creates a ripple effect, allowing the kingdom to recognize itself in more and more people. There's a video right here that takes this understanding even deeper, exploring how this same kingdom consciousness transforms the way you pray and connect with divine presence. Click and continue with me over there, because what we've uncovered today is just the beginning of what becomes possible when you live from the kingdom within.